Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to Therapy with Miss T, where I'm Miss T and I'm here to do your prophetic message that I got. Okay, so I got two little words that I'm going to put out. This is from the Most High, and this one I was brought to because of another scripture, and it's because someone had posted it in the comments, right? And it made me go look into it, and the Most High has really been placing it on me a lot lately. So I'm going to go into the words that I got for tonight. Okay, so this one is going to be called an unclean spirit. Okay, an unclean spirit. So as always, guys, this is Therapy with Miss T. We keep it real, raw, and uncut. I let you know I am not a therapist. Okay, so I'm intuitive and I pick up on energy and messages from the Most High. If you've helped one, you've helped some. So I hope that this message helps someone. But there's something around this time about schooling. Okay, and maybe you're teaching or you're going to go into something that involves teaching or showing others the way or showing others how to do something, right? Well, the Most High brought me to Matthew 12:43. And it's called an unclean spirit returns. Okay? An unclean spirit returns. So be mindful around this time, guys, because the enemy is busy and the enemy wants you to return to your unclean ways, your unclean self, your unclean spirit, right? Because you have to be born again. You're born into sin that you may live again, right? But you have to be born again. And sometimes the enemy will try to get you to go back to unclean things, unclean ways. An unclean spirit returns, right? Sometimes a spirit will return that is not clean or not conducive to your environment, right? So it says an unclean spirit returns, Matthew 12:43. When an unclean spirit goes out of a man, he goes through dry places, seeking rest and finds none. So it's telling you that when the unclean spirits are released from you, when you release yourself of your old ways, your old patterns, your old mindset, your old ways of thinking, your old ways of doing, right? You're going to have dry places, meaning you're going to have rough patches. You're going to have hardships. You're going to have hard times when you release yourself of these unclean spirits, right? It says, seeking rest and he finds none. So you may actually get so tired during releasing these unclean spirits that you just want to rest and you may not be able to. So it says, then he says, I will return to my house from which I came. So you could get a point in the journey of your life where you're so tired of something. You're even willing to go back to your old house, to something that you've left behind, to something that has changed. You're still wanting to go back to your old ways of living, your old house, right? Because that's how rough the journey has gotten after you've released yourself of unclean spirits. Life might have actually gotten harder for you when you released yourself of these things, not easier, right? To the point where you may actually want to go back to your old house. But this is what it says happens when you go back to your old house. When you go back to unclean spirits, this is what happens. So it says, then he says, I will return to my house from which I came. And when he comes, he finds it empty, swept, and put in order. Whew, that came on me heavy for some reason. Then he goes and takes with him 7 other spirits more wicked than himself, and take with him 7 other spirits more wicked than himself, and they enter and dwell there. And the last state of that man is worse than the first. Okay, let me say that again because I feel like I messed it up. Okay, so it says, then he says, I will return to my house from which I came. And when he comes, he finds it empty, swept, and put in order. So this old house looks clean. This old house has been swept. This old house has things that are put in order. It appears to be right. It appears to be in place. It appears to look like it's better, right? This old house, this unclean spirit. Then it says, He goes and he takes with him 7 other spirits more wicked than himself, and takes with him 7 other spirits more wicked, that they enter and dwell there, and the last state of that man is worse than the first. So shall it be also with this wicked generation. That is what it says. Wicked generation. Matthew 12:43. That it's indirectly telling you and letting you know that you can get tired on your journey. You can get to that dry place. You can get to that place where you're ready to give up place. You can get to that place where you're like, look, I'll just go back to my old house, my old ways, my old way of thinking. And when you go back to the old, it looks better. It looks swept. It looks clean. But it says you take on 7 more wicked spirits by going to that one old house. So instead of you now having released some of the wickedness in you, now you went and picked up even more. Just because you decided to go back to your old house, just because you decided to go back to your old ways, because you decided to go back to an unclean spirit. And an unclean spirit returns is what it's called. So there could be something around this time about a spirit of someone, or something that is unclean, or someone that is unclean, or something that is trying to come back around. Sometimes you have to question why certain spirits want to come back into your life. Sometimes you have to question why you want to go back to that old house when you've been saved from it already. Sometimes you have to question. And the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. The enemy knows that if you return to that unclean spirit, that you're picking up 7 more wicked and deadly spirits than before. The enemy knows this. The enemy doesn't want you to know. The enemy doesn't want you to know that there's unclean spirits trying to return. And they're going to be 7 times more wicked than the last. That is why sometimes you have to cut things off, no matter how hard it may seem. 7 times worse than the last. There's unclean spirits around this time that may be trying to return into your life, and they're not coming back as clean and swept as it's appearing. If you go back now in your life, if you return now in your journey, if you give up now because of this dry place, because you have grown weary, okay, because it has gotten rough, because maybe you were trying to find rest and you haven't been able to find any. Maybe you have been just going and going and going and you feel like you're tired. Like, when will you ever get a break? When will you ever have your peace, your rest? Going back is not the answer. Going back is not the way. Despite how difficult it has gotten on your journey, the Most High will forever cover you, no matter what. And there's some unclean spirits that are trying to come back into your life because they have a mission, and it's to kill, steal, and destroy. That is the purpose of the enemy, and it knows its purpose. You have to know yours. And if the Most High says he will not forsake you, abandon you, neglect you, forget you, then that is what it is. There is no way. There's no way. Doesn't matter what it looks like. Doesn't matter how it appears to be. There's no way. So for someone, just know that there is an unclean spirit trying to return into your life. And even when it looks cleaned up, it looks swept up, it looks empty, it looks like everything's been put into order, looks can be deceiving. Looks. That's why you go by faith and not by sight. That's why you need to pray on it and pray over it. That's why you have to really get into your own energy to know others, to know that when you walk around someone, that gut feeling, that gut instinct, you have to listen to those things. You have them for a reason. And for someone, you need to know that there is an unclean spirit that is trying to return into your life, or one that may have already returned into your life, or one that, if you return to your old ways, will be 7 times worse. 7 times worse than where you are right now with that dry place. Joy comes in the morning. You have to mourn for that joy, but it comes. mourning. That's how I be explaining it. I know they say morning, morning. You know, like in the morning, something comes for you, joy in the morning. But the way I look at it as well is that you have to mourn sometimes for that joy. But it does not mean you won't receive it. So I don't know who this message is for, but if you've been thinking about going back to your old ways because you're in a dry patch or you're in a dry place or you do need rest and you are tired and you're ready to give it in, you're ready to give up, you're ready to just throw in the towel, maybe even go back to how you used to be, just know that it tells you in Matthew 12:43 that when you have been, in a sense, delivered from your old house, keep it that way. Remain delivered from those old ways. I think DMX said this, yeah, the road was rough, but I decided to ride it. You have to decide to ride this ride. You have to decide to live for the Most High. You have to make that decision. And it's not going to be always an easy decision to make because, yes, people say, oh, I love God. Oh, I love God. But when the Most High is telling you to not go back to this unclean spirit, to not go back to this old house, to not go back to those old ways, can you really listen? Can you really say, okay, for you know the plans for me? Or does that spirit feel better than the Most High? Because the enemy, that's what the enemy will do. An illusion. An illusion. The house appeared swept. Everything in place. Appears. It's an illusion. That's what the enemy does. There's always chaos and confusion. That's the enemy. So I don't know who needed this message, but the Most High said that around this time, guys, to remember that there are going to be some unclean spirits that are going to try to return to your house, okay? And want to bring you back to your old house or to your old ways. Or there's someone that is trying to make something look like it is something that it's not. And they're doing that in a sense, you going back would only give you 7 more wicked spirits than the last. And if you've been delivered of your wicked spirits and wicked ways, because that's what we're battling, principalities of darkness. And if you've been delivered of that darkness, because all of us have had some kind of darkness in us, because all of us have experienced pain, all of us have been hurt. So if you've been delivered from something, the Most High is saying to go back now would be 7 times more wicked than before. That is the message. That is what I got. So for anyone, Matthew 12:43, I would suggest you go read it. Look it up. See what you get from it. But that's the word, and that's what the Most High said. So just know around this time, guys, to be mindful and wary of unclean spirits in old houses, familiarity, right? Be mindful of that. Pray on everything. Pray on everyone. Pray on everything that comes into your life. Pray. Use your armor. That's your armor for a reason. Use it. Pray. Say, you know what? I got to make sure first. Give me a second. Give me a day. Let me make sure. Let me ask the Most High, right? It's okay to confirm. That's how you got to be. You got to confirm with your Father. So there's something around this time, guys, where I feel like for someone, just know that there's an unclean spirit trying to return, and you have to pray and ask the Most High, and the Most High will order your steps, right? And lead you the right way if you listen to the plan. So that's the message, and that's what I got. So until next time, as always, guys, I appreciate each and every one of you for rocking and rolling with me, Miss T, on another prophetic message. So yeah, until next time, as always, guys, what we tell them, guys, we tell them, namaste.